The Caribbean is one of the regions most at risk from global warming. Human, animal and plant life in small island states like here in Trinidad and Tobago are affected by rising sea levels and deforestation. Can they speak with one voice at the Copenhagen Climate Summit? My guest today on Hard Talk is President Jagdeo of Guyana, who heads the 15-member regional grouping of Caribbean states, CARICOM. We'll be asking him whether the rest of the world pays any attention to what they say. President Bharat Jagdeo, welcome to Hard Talk.
Thank you very much, Zainab.
Now, you have called for more cooperation between the rich and the developing world when it comes to climate change. Who isn't cooperating enough?
Well, the developed world, they have been very good at the rhetoric of climate change, but when it comes to providing the financing to deal with mitigation actions and adaptation for the developing world, which is absolutely critical for their survival, they've been found lacking.
So, good on the rhetoric. You're saying they're all talk and no action?
Yes.
But what proof do you have of that?
Well, just look at the negotiations. We have had, the science is clear from the time the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, made their report. I think everyone believes in the report now. Now they have demonstrated what is necessary to avoid climate catastrophe. The economics of climate change has been made clear. We know how much money we need for mitigation and adaptation. Yet in the discussions, the developed world has not come up to the table. It is required for them to cut or limit emissions and a range between 25 to 40% by 2020. The proposals on the table fall short of that.
They're working on the financing, and this kind of thing is going to be finessed at the climate change
working
summit.
On the financing is very far from providing adequate financing.
Okay, but I hear a clear message from you that you are blaming the rich world, and you, the developing nations, bear no culpability whatsoever?
No, because the changes in the climate that we're seeing now has come about because of accumulation of a concentration of greenhouse gases. We had no part in that. 80% of the greenhouse gases currently in the atmosphere came from the developed world. We're already facing the consequences of climate change, particularly in the Caribbean. One hurricane, a single flood, can wipe out the equivalent of 60 to 80% of our gross domestic product. So we are saying they have been responsible for climate change so far.
Okay,
but as we go forward, we have to be part of the solution too. But we have to be incentivized to be part of the solution. We have so many other priorities within our countries. We can't divert money from poverty and education and health care.
You are chairman of the 15-member Caribbean community, CARICOM. One of your members, where we're meeting now, Trinidad and Tobago, it is, what, 1.3 million people?
Yeah.
It's got loads of oil and gas reserves. I mean, gas something like 50 trillion cubic feet. And you know what? It's the world's 6th biggest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions per capita.
Yes.
Per capita. 6th in the world. Tiny Trinidad. So there's a member of your community.
But I am amazed that sometimes the developed world wants to use per capita emission when it concerns small countries. And when China and India make the same arguments, on a per capita basis, China is emitting 5 tons per capita,
but that's
India
important.
2 tons
that's
per capita.
Though, isn't
then
yeah, but that's important,
they
isn't it?
don't listen to that.
A small country like Trinidad and Tobago, 1.3 million people, and it's the 6th biggest, and this is a member of your community.
Yeah, but Trinidad...
And you should be saying to them, hey, hang on, you're using far too much oil and gas.
But Trinidad and Tobago has not been responsible for the accelerated concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Trinidad and Tobago emits a tiny fraction of the concentration. the developed world has chosen an unsustainable path.
But it's the principle.
They have
it's
done
the
so, they
principle.
have achieved prosperity at the expense of the rest
That
of
may
the
be
world.
the case,
And so they have to bear responsibility for it.
But you're giving that argument that
Yes.
you've said don't go by per capita, which is what the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Pat